Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello everybody at home and welcome to Houselights, House of Dante, Joan Dante to be specific, not Dante's Inferno, because today we are talking about 1981's The Howling, his first 1980 picture, because we had a miscalculation in Houselights, we're only human, and so we missed his first foray into this decade, even though we were covering the 1980s of Joe Dante. So we thought it would be a nice way to go back and view his first work after viewing all the other works and see how far has he gone in the 80s. Should he have stuck with horror? Is it a good thing that he explored some more family stuff, some more sci-fi stuff, some creepy neighbor stuff? You know, like where did it all begin? And so for those of you who don't know, what are you doing? Why are you listening to this podcast? The Howling is a werewolf movie. That's pretty much all you need to know. It is a werewolf movie through and through, starring E.T.'s mom. So,
Yeah. Sorry.
I want to talk about...
the mom in E.T., not E.T.'s mom, but yes.
She will forever be E.T.'s mom.
Yes. Yes.
So what you can't, before we introduce ourselves and before we talk about our first viewing of this picture, what you guys should do, listeners, is go to thenerdparty.com. Check out all of our backlogged episodes, because we have a lot of great stuff from a lot of different directors and a lot of different formats. And you should go to thenerdparty.com, check it out. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Just search The Nerd Party or at Join Nerd Party on Twitter. And you can find all of our other stuff by going to our host website. So just go to thenerdparty.com and select the hosts, and you can select our individual pages, and then you can find our other works. Besides the website, John, where can we find you?
Oh, just look for me as Kessel Junkie out there on the social networks. And as I want to say, Letterboxd is the most fun place to engage. That's where you can find me out there. Darren, where can people find you?
They can go to drsci-fi.com or all of my socials at Dr. Sci-Fi, where it's probably going to be post-celebration posts for at least another week or two.
Nice.
And you guys should absolutely check out his stuff, because Darren makes amazing things. And you can find me at The Insane Robin on Twitter, as well as Letterboxd. So, I love this question. I love that this is always our first question when we remember it. But Darren, what did you know about The Howling? When did you first experience it? How old were you? Were you wearing underpants?
So I do remember seeing the poster for The Howling that kind of like claws through flesh, a curtain. Can't quite tell what they're clawing into, but it's a pretty iconic poster, and I think, and you can pretty much tell it's going to be a werewolf movie off of just that. But no, the first time I watched this was this earlier this afternoon. It's not even been 24 hours since I watched this, but overall though, I feel like I'm going to give myself a pass for missing this in the beginning of the 1980s selection, because I'm getting a lot of 70s holdovers. Like, this has a lot of vibes. Like, if you had told me this was 79 and not 81, I totally would have believed that. It's that it hasn't fully transitioned into that 80s feel we all know and love. It's still a slasher in the woods and all of that. But this was my first time watching this. And I definitely checked, okay, what's the running time? 90 minutes. I can handle that. And then the rest was history.
And a beautiful history it is. I saw it some time ago. I think it was 71 hours before this recording. So, I have a little jump start on you here. This was I always regarded this as like an outside, this was one of those ones, as the 80s horror fan that I am. I was like, oh, this is one I've always meant to get around to. So when we figured out, oh, wait, this is 81, I was like, oh, great. I have an excuse to watch The Howling. Cool. I've heard about this movie. It's held in high regard by a lot of people out there. And it's sort of like a classic. There have been all of these re-releases. There are all of these sequels. They even had a vinyl. Tristan, you'll appreciate this, of a re-release of the vinyl soundtrack, right?
Hey.
Like, yeah, right. So like that's big time. I was excited. I was wearing underpants, and was conscious for the entire thing. And we will discuss what that experience was like through the rest of the show. But Tristan, how many times have you watched The Howling?
I have seen this exactly one time, and I finished it earlier today. I think Darren is the most newborn of this group, because I finished it this early afternoon, and I think he finished it this late afternoon. So, I never knew this movie existed. Never knew this movie existed. Knew nothing about it. Never saw the poster. Never heard anything about it. The only reference that I've ever heard of this movie is in 1996's Wes Craven's Scream, where they're at the Blockbuster. The I don't know if it's a Blockbuster, but they're at the movie rental place, and Jamie Kennedy's character is there, and he's having a discussion with Matthew Lillard, and a teenage girl comes up to him and says, "Hey, what's that werewolf movie with E.T.'s mom in it?" And he goes, "The Howling horror section over there." And that is the beginning and end of my Howling knowledge. And I've never been a big horror fan. I've never been a big werewolf monster movie fan. My monster movie knowledge begins and ends with the classic Universal movies. That's it. And so my first time was watching it today in preparation for this podcast, and it was fun to kind of fill that gap, because I didn't know that this was so successful. I had no idea this is a beloved movie. Like, I went on Letterboxd, and there's tons and tons of people who are giving it 4 stars, 5 stars, 4.5 stars, and just talking about it's a classic. I think there was it's in a lot of people's, like, a lot of legit publications' top 100 lists of horror movies, and I think it was ranked number 85 for scariest scene, and it was Bob Picardo's transformation scene. And a lot of love and care went into this movie, especially the makeup. Rick Baker started on this, but then had to get out and do An American Werewolf in London. And so he left his assistant to do it. And those two movies were released in the same year, and both were praised for their special makeup effects. And so yeah, there's this huge following behind this movie, and it would cost $1.5 million.
1.5 million.
Yep. $1.5 million to make, but it earned almost $18 million back. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What a return.
Yes, that is one hell of a return. It is little question why a sequel happened and why it put Dante on the map. His little movie that could turned around. And the thing is, even though it's 81, and Darren, I fully acknowledge, like, this feels like a 70s movie. This is a late 70s movie released out of time.
Oh, look, a sex scene. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Never mind that. But like, the horror movies at this time were the big breakouts for people. You had Halloween was made on the cheap, made a ridiculous amount of money back.
And this was a March movie. This wasn't like, I mean, nowadays Halloween really comes out only in October. Like, it's a seasonal thing. It's rare to see a horror movie in like the spring, but
very true. But the thing is, this is based on a book. So obviously the book sold enough copies that that might have had a factor to it. I don't know for sure, but like, that could have easily had a factor to it, because, if people have read the book and they like it enough to adapt it into a movie, I'm not saying that I even knew this was based on a book, but maybe people back then did. Maybe that drove, butts to the seats.
I think it had to have, because it only took 4 years from the movie release. From the novel release to the movie release. That's crazy.
Yeah, so they snapped it up.
Yeah, that has to have been like optioned right before it was released or something, right?
Yeah, it had to have been.
Huh.
And fun fact, Joe Dante hated the book.
They usually do.
Well, I wonder how the author felt about the movie. That's what I have to wonder in exchange.
apparently there was a really awkward conflict because Joe Dante repeatedly trashed the book, like in public, like in stuff like that. And I can't remember where it was, but it was at some convention where he just continually talked about how trashy the book was and how they had to improve it on set or like in the script. And one guy said, he's like, so you hated the book? He's like, yes, I absolutely hated the book. He's like, cool, because I wrote it.
Oops. Oopsie. That the thing is that's an even more awkward version of like the whole Stephen King, Stanley Kubrick. I don't know the one. Stephen King despised the Kubrick adaptation of The Shining. And the thing is, if you've ever read The Shining, the movie and the book, it's like as or more divergent than Jurassic Park the movie and Jurassic Park the book, where it's like you could have told people everything that happened in the book and they'd go and they watch the movie, they'd be like, you didn't really read the book. That is just nothing like what I was watching. But yeah, if I recall correctly, Stephen King, as part of the negotiation for him to get that halfway decent, but only halfway decent adaptation that was a TV miniseries to get the rights to it, he had to basically sign an agreement that he would shut his mouth about Kubrick's adaptation. That's probably an apocryphal story, but it's one that I enjoy. Therefore, it must be true. So
it must be true.
It must be.
No, it's funny. I almost want to watch this again because I did not realize that Robert Picardo was in it. Now, obviously, Eddie is in a very tiny bit at the very beginning, and he's got tons of makeup on. Like, you barely see his face.
He's also disguising his voice. I had no idea that was Bob Picardo at the beginning. I didn't know it was him until we see Eddie later on. Yeah, like when we see him out of the shadows. I had no idea that was Bob Picardo until that moment because... Like, John, did you know that was Picardo at the beginning?
No. I saw his name in the credits, and I was like, oh, okay, where's he going to be? I never would have picked him out in the beginning. I do want to interject, though, because his reveal, and then he has the transformation scene and stuff like that happens. But apparently, while he was undergoing the makeup, he was miserable. And he was like, I've had 2 Broadway productions. I went to Yale Drama School. And here I am sitting in this makeup chair. And apparently the wisecrack from the makeup people was next time read the script all the way through. And I just think I flash forward a scant 4 years later when he's the alien in Joe Dante's Explorers. And it's like, it's almost like he just keeps signing up for punishment at that point, because it's like, Dante's going to do something to you. And it's not until, he gets to be the cowboy that he's not in a ton of makeup, but he's playing a zany character.
Yeah, but maybe in the transformation sequence, he probably had a little bit of makeup going on when he was reverting back.
Yeah, there had to have been something. So I think like The Burbs was the only thing where his face was unaffected.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. And just because we're talking about the transformation and everything in Bob Picardo, I respect these effects very much. They're that old school practical. I can imagine being younger and seeing this in the movie theater and being, whoa, that is crazy. But I can just tell you, watching it at home, as much as I respect the effects that they did, and I know that this is, modern sensibilities versus the way they did it back then, but I'm pretty sure even back then I'd have been like, and why are you just standing there? Because this is taking 4 years for him to transform.
It's the longest transformation scene ever on film. I mean, he might as well have just been wrapped in a cocoon,
right?
And then waited for it to come out and become a butterfly, because E.T.'s mom is just there, just like, the horror is continuing. Oh,
yeah. I have no idea what to do until I find this conveniently placed jar of acid in a doctor's office.
That she didn't just throw at him. She kind of tossed it and jiggled it out. I was like, your hands would be gone.
Yeah, it would. And the thing is, chemical burns don't really stop until you get a reagent on them. And it's like, it sort of lingers.
So glad that acid was in that psychologist's office. Yeah, it was.
You'd never know when you need it.
It's also interesting because I feel like when people think of werewolf movie transitions, they usually will always think of American Werewolf in London,
Yeah.
which the special effects artists actually came from this movie, left it, and went and did that production. So
Right.
they were both producing around the same time. But yeah, I mean, the effects are pretty good. Honestly, I felt the strongest points were the editing, again, of the what you don't see. Like when they're in the forest and like they do a good job of not showing you the werewolf for a long time. And I think that actually adds a lot of suspense. Like it's actually kind of chilling, you know, and then it's like, now you see the werewolf all the time and it's not even really that scary anymore.
I want to agree with you. I do. I had my issues with this movie. I had my issues, and one of those issues is being in the shadows too long, because I clocked it, and the first thing that we got any kind of sign of any kind of supernatural activity was at the 45 minute mark. That's halfway through. This is a 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
Halfway through the movie before anything supernatural happens. So I want to take you guys on a journey of my journey. So I knew nothing about this movie. I had no idea what was going to happen, what the locations were, who was in it, what was going on. You guys know I'm a huge Fincher fan. And this show started as a Fincher show. So obviously,
Very true. Yeah.
Our roots are there. When this movie started, I was excited. I was ecstatic. I was just like, this is cool. I like where this is going. We're starting with an investigative journalist, local, not network, local, cool. Investigative local journalist who is going through the seedy underbelly of her city and tracking down and helping the cops nail a serial killer. Awesome. And then she takes down said serial killer. And then I'm like, okay, well, because this is called The Howling, and I saw the poster because I clicked play, it's got to be some sort of werewolf base. So I'm like, okay, cool. So is this a serial killer who's a werewolf? So this is a serial killer who can't be killed, can't be taken down. That's awesome. So are we going to see an urban werewolf?
Like Jack the Ripper, the werewolf?
Yeah, Jack the Ripper, the werewolf who cannot be killed. That's awesome. That's a great premise. And the editing was fantastic. The cinematography was fantastic. Like when she exited the porno store and like all those people were like leering at her and looking at her, like the camera was like the lens was super close to the people's faces, just kind of made it more intrusive. And then as she's sitting there and she has got that blanket over her and you see the flashing lights and everything like that, people are talking to her. But then as she finishes speaking, the camera pans to the right and we reveal that we're actually in her living room. And so that shot, it like her close up, her single wasn't actually in the alley. It was shot in her living room the entire time, but just in the appearance that they were in the alley. That's genius filmmaking. That's so great and such a nice artistic touch. And then once we transition to that, the movie stops being genius and then goes into every other type of werewolf movie we've ever seen. And then they went to the woods. And I'm like, why is this in the woods? Like knowing nothing about this movie, it set itself up for failure. And it teased an idea of something that would have been way cooler than what we got.
Now,
and I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Did you guys, when did you guys figure out that they were all werewolves? Because I didn't see that coming until the very end when all of a sudden it's like, oh, so everybody is, I mean, the colony, it's like, really? You're going to safely go to a place called the colony? I'd never go to a place called the colony. And especially where the Goonies were and they had the map and they held it up.
Look, I think, again, speaking to the 70s thing, as soon as she was going to a place called the Colony, I don't know whether this is because I've watched so many horror movies or anything like that, but I'm like, oh, they're all going to be werewolves. Okay. And Patrick McNee is the leader. Cool. Because very much, aside from the fact that I've seen a lot of horror movies, this does stem from something that was released in the 70s. And so it would make sense to me that there
That's
would have
true.
been echoes of Charlie Manson or Jim Jones or stuff like that, which was very much on everybody's mind. The idea that there was this guy posing as a savior type. He could teach you how to live your life. You were going to go off to this commune. And then you find out that they're all a bunch of horrible people and you're trapped and you can't get out. And that is very much, again, a thing that roots this in a more 70s sensibility, is that was very much on everybody's mind. And so I am not, and this is the thing, the reason I'm using all of these words is because I'm not sitting here being like, well, it's because I'm so clever. It's not that at all, because I'm not. I'm a midwit at best. And it's just that I've seen so many horror movies that it's like, why don't you come to the colony? And I'm like, oh, great, they're all werewolves. Cool. Like, it's just a given to me that they were all going to be werewolves.
I didn't know that they were going to all be werewolves, but I because they were going to the colony and it was super hippy dippy, but yet everybody was weird. I was like, okay, I thought they were all going to be like worshiping werewolves. That's what I thought. Like from the religious zealots of the 70s and early 80s, I thought they were going to be some sort of people who like werewolf wannabes or, you know, things like that. But then when they flipped the script and it was just like, oh, they're all werewolves. Oh, okay. Especially the guy who acted like a werewolf, even though like he wore that fur vest.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, he's wearing the fur vest right after they have a shot of everybody else going into the woods for hunting. I'm like, do you want to get shot, dude? Because that's how people get shot when someone's hunting in the woods and you wear a fur vest. I'm like, what are you doing?
I like to make duck calls when I'm in the woods. Just
that's what I like to do.
Down where I live, I dress up in scaly costumes and wade around lakes, to blend in with the alligators so that when they're on the menu down here. But like, it is, that's baffling. But I want to go back to the capture of Eddie, because there is something I really got to get off my chest here. She goes into the porno booth theater thing, and I'm like, okay, this is another very 70s thing. This is Taxi Driver. He takes Sybil Shepherd to a porno. This is very much in everybody's mind because it wound up, it was just a nature of, being in New York sort of thing, right?
It was hilarious when the guys left. Like they saw a woman in there and then they left.
I agree. That was really, I was like, yeah, okay. I could see something like the guy in a business suit is there looking at this lurid stuff. Woman walks in and he's like, I'm done. That's funny.
That's not Toy Story.
Right. Oh, this is the wrong type of store. Oh my gosh. I just came in here to ask for directions on how not to come here. But like, she goes into the booth and I'm like, okay, I'm going along with it. Yeah. The serial killer. And this is sort of like an accepted part of, the serial killer mindset. Especially, stuff that was explored with like Ted Bundy and stuff like that, where it's like pornography figures very big with serial killers. It fits that she's going there. Okay. He's putting her in an environment that's very closed off. He's in control. And she goes in there. And then the movie starts. And I am by no means a prude. I have seen a lot of weird stuff. I've gone in. I even watched 5 minutes of a Lars von Trier movie one time.
Whoa, 5.
Only 5.
I only made it to 3. So, I mean, good for you.
I have a very high tolerance for pain. But what is shown on screen, this all can be conveyed by the actress's reactions, by audio, by anything but showing this on screen. And especially when they decide to cut and show just that in frame. It's not even out of focus in the background.
Yeah, it is prominently featured. And for those of you who don't remember, this isn't just pornography.
Yeah.
This is a rape fantasy.
Correct. And that is not anything I ever want in my brain or anything I want crossing my eyeballs. And I just got to say, I'll go ahead and put it out there for you guys, see whether you agree or disagree, whether I'm having too strong. I thought it was one of the most tasteless things I've seen in a movie in a long time. And I honestly thought that the filmmaker, Joe Dante, I thought that the editor didn't do him any favors. If I were in that editing booth, I'd be like, yeah, Joe, this isn't even necessary. I don't get it. I don't get it. Can anybody explain it to me
And
why it was that graphic?
How can you show like basically X-rated content inside an R-rated movie and be like, but that's fine. It's only like a few minutes. It's like, but you're showing X-rated content.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially it's that's the thing, is that it's not just like we talked about. Like I said, it's not just pornography. It is rape fantasy pornography. There's regulations on this stuff. It's not like we talked about. We're not just a bunch of prudes. We understand that pornography exists, nudity exists. We've reviewed movies where there's sex scenes and there's nudity in it, and this hasn't come up before. We just accept it as moviegoers and cinemaphiles and everything like that. It is a part of the human experience. Sex is a part of the human experience. The pornography is a part of many people's human experience. But this is stuff that like a lot of people don't want to keep in your brain. Well, like some people might be asking, hey, this is a horror film. Do you want the idea of somebody's arm getting chopped off in your brain? Or like, no, like, because that's involving a werewolf, like that's supernatural. That's there's a disconnect.
Yeah. There's not a fear
there.
that my arm is going to get chopped off today because I'm not near any werewolves. There's a fantasy element to it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I think that like this was a wrong step in the movie. This was a huge wrong step. It was ill-advised. It was tasteless. It was wrong to include. And it was shot specifically for this movie. And even worse on top of that, guys, is that they wanted to include it unedited on the DVD extras. And the only reason why I got shot down is because Britain has way stricter laws on that. And they're like, go pound sand. Like that, you cannot include this in the DVD. And they're like, okay, fine, we won't include it. And this isn't the end of their sexual impropriety of this movie or with Joe Dante, where later on, the character of Marcia, played by Elizabeth Brooks, there is a sex scene between her and the husband, Bill, I think is his name. Bill. And she was told that her nudity would be completely obscured by smoke and heat waves and steam and everything like that by the fire.
No,
so
he was obscured.
Exactly. He was obscured. She wasn't. Darren, it gets even worse. They sold her stills of her nude scene to Playboy magazine without her consent or her approval. So not only did they lie to her and film her naked body without her permission, and put it in the movie, they sold it to Playboy magazine and put her in a pornographic magazine without her permission. So holy crap.
Yeah, it's wrong on so many different levels that it's bad enough that they went to the effort to film what they showed that was so terrible in that booth. But the fact that I mean, for you to sort of abuse your actress like that, for Elizabeth Brooks's trust to be betrayed that badly, speaks very ill of Dante and the producers of the film. Really ill of them. It calls to mind the story about Basic Instinct, that Sharon Stone was sold the same bill of goods by Verhoeven, and she had
I'm
to
so
see.
glad you brought that up.
And she had to see the movie, and she's like, "What the f? Oh, whoa, no, that's not in shadow at all." And it is. It's shameful. It's really. I would like to know that there's some story out there where Dante eventually apologized to her. But especially given the fact that I know that she later died of a brain tumor, which doesn't relate to what they did to her. But at the same time, it's like, I would really hope to find out that Dante, even if it took her like getting sick or something like that, to call her up and be like, look, I'm sorry that I did that. That was,
I know what you mean.
Yeah. I was a young filmmaker. I was trying to make it. I made a bad decision. I'm so sorry. But I still think that they could address that they could do a re-edit. And everybody does a final cut now, or like 6 different cuts of a movie. Just ask Ridley Scott or George Lucas or anybody like that. It's like, you could trim this up and make it right. you could make this right. And the only hurdle I think to that is the fact that this is regarded so well. This is such a hit. It's such a well-regarded movie. And like, Darren, I want to ask you, since, this is our first time with it, all of us. And I think that Tristan and I are tipping our hand a little bit. Like, what do you see here that would explain why this is such a beloved horror movie?
I think,
why is this endured?
I think, again, part of it, like many movies, is it's definitely the context of when it came out. You have like, what else was showing that March of 81, and and it, in a way, it checks the boxes for a horror movie. You got a little bit of nudity, you got a scared girl in the woods, you got kind of these power fantasies. A lot of these things are staples of horror, and it's just so funny how like a lot of it is very like, you're in this world of the Howling where everything's like, oh yeah, just come on to the nuns just walk into the occult bookstore and are checking it out. Like, he's like, I got a book for that. And it's like, in a way, it almost makes me think of like Ghostbusters, where Ghostbusters is treating it as a comedy of like, yeah, Ray's got a occult bookstore, but like, you don't take any of it seriously. Like it's all for laughs. And Ghostbusters is like, what if we took the paranormal investigators and actually made them like 9-to-5 jobs, and that's the punchline. But I mean, I love seeing Dick Miller as many times as possible, so that was awesome.
Yeah.
him showing up. But
I wonder if those silver bullets are going to come into play.
Yeah, I know. It's like foreshadowing. What is it? Pavel's gun. Your Chekhov's gun.
Chekhov's gun.
It's
a Pavel's gun.
Hey, we're Star Trek fans. Pavel Chekhov. There you go.
Did you shoot the dog, or is the dog not shot? But yeah, it's, again, yeah, I'm also not a huge horror fan. I love like thrillers or suspense way more. I'm big into like, I'm not into jump scares or anything like that. Or, they're in there, but yeah, I don't know. Like, this kind of movie isn't satisfying to me. Like, I don't know what you're trying to get out of it. It's more like, look at all the sinful things we can dabble on the screen and get away with, and that might get you a kick for a price of a movie ticket. Like, that feels like the low common denominator. But
and what's fascinating, because you did mention, is like, oh, what else was out in March of 81? I don't know what else was out in March of 81, but in June of 81, Indiana Jones explodes on the screen.
True.
So it's like,
made a little more than $17 million, I bet.
A little bit more. Cost a little bit more, but did make a little bit more. I really like, this is a movie, though, to speak to your point, Darren, about how like, it's the time that it came out sort of thing. I would love to, I postulate this truly is lightning striking in a bottle, because I think that if this gets released closer to, like, if this had come out that summer, it's done. It doesn't make anything. It is just dead in the water sort of thing. But there's enough here, and the reason I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, maybe Tristan, you can help out. There's enough here that Spielberg gives them Gremlins. Is it just because he demonstrates an ability to work with like these transformation effects and these like heavy practical things?
That's a big part of it, the special effects. But I think it's also what you said, though, Tristan. Like, the very beginning, like, is really well shot. Like, there are parts that are like scary, and you're not quite sure where the monster is. So it's a well edited film in that regard.
Mm. Yeah.
One thing I want to shift gears a little bit. Previously we've talked about protagonist confusion with Joe Dante. I think this is the epitome of that problem that Dante has, is protagonist confusion. Who the hell is the main character of this movie? Well, it begins and ends with one person.
Yeah.
But she's not really there in the middle.
Yeah, that's a very fair criticism.
Because it begins with Dee Wallace, aka Teet's mom, and she's the journalist, and then she goes to the colony with her husband, and then we spend a lot of time with her husband, And then there's a side story of her contemporaries, Chris and Terry, Chris and Terry, who are doing the investigative side in the city. And their story is interesting. And so we focus on Bill becoming a vampire, becoming a werewolf.
Yeah.
And Terry and Chris doing real investigative work in the urban areas. And Dee Wallace is just kind of there trying to remember. And then we also get Marcia thrown in there. And we're going back and forth between these people, and Dee Wallace is just kind of there. And then until Chris comes in, realizing that Terry was killed by the werewolves, and he's there to kind of save her, and then the killer at the end. I mean, she doesn't really have anything to do during this movie. During the bulk of the movie, she has nothing to do.
I would say that that's a remnant, a vestige of. I would say that this is more of a novel type structure. Right? Not novel as in new, but this reflects more of a book where it can take its time with each character, but even a book still will check in with that main character. Even if they diverge for a chapter or two, you'll still touch base with them. It's oh, by the way, here's your reference point. We're still anchored to who this is. And I think that is the weakness that you're getting at there, is that there's no attempt to relate this investigation to our main character. For them to keep her enough in our minds, we're doing this for her. This is why we're here. And then the whole thing where he goes off and has sex with Marcia so that he can turn into a werewolf, that's just a weird thing that undoubtedly his turning into a werewolf needs to happen. The sex scene doesn't. It gets us back to her quicker if it doesn't, but it's an obvious opportunity for them to show off the effects again. So basically this movie's an effects reel in one sense.
It kind of is.
When Bill goes and meets up with Marcia, and then they start to get busy, I'm like, oh God, they're going to have hairy sex. I just know that they're going to have hairy, slobbery, hirsute sex. It's just, I knew it was coming. I had no idea it was going to end with a cartoon animation. But
awkward in and of itself. And lots of fangs, prosthetic fangs. Those are very necessary. I don't know. There's sort of a thing where it's I feel like I have no choice but to wrestle with that whole question of why. Why is it so beloved? Why is it so? I'm not trying to beat it up, but it's that whole thing where it's everything we keep coming back to. That's what I'm struggling with, and maybe that's the wrong lens for me to look through it. Right? Maybe I should just I know how I approach it on my own terms. I guess in the beginning, yes, to both your points, it's really shot well in the beginning, and he manages the effects, and he makes 20 million, or he makes 18 million out of 1.5. I don't know. I don't see myself as a Spielberg producer type being that guy. I want him to direct a picture for me. I don't get it. I don't know. I mean, because I'm trying to think, is this one of Spielberg's favorite movies from that year?
With Gremlins though, wasn't it Spielberg wanted to direct it himself and then handed it off? He's I don't have time or what? That was the sense I got more for that. So it wasn't necessarily I want to work with Joe Dante. He's perfect for this. It was more I don't really have the time or bandwidth to do this. Oh yeah, Joe Dante, he knows special effects. He could pull this off. Let's give him a try. That's more the vibe I get, but I wasn't there. So
yeah, I promise I won't double back to it again. What I want to beat up on is feeling bad for Patrick McNee, because he's a well-established actor. I love the guy's performances in virtually everything I see him in. I even like him in this. I think he's great. The guy he has that old school British effortless screen presence. He shows up and it's like, oh, this is comforting. I know what I'm going to get with this performance. I know he's going to deliver what I'm supposed to get. But I look at this and it's sort of the same feeling as, Unicron voiced by Orson Welles. And it's like, oh, okay. I might not have picked this as his agent. I might not have put him in here, but I mean, Darren, do you think McNee brings any, I hate using this word, but everybody else loves using it. Gravitas. Like, do you think he brings that needed weight? Does he bring that Peter Cushing gravitas, to this, where it's like, oh, this is a well-established British character actor. I'm glad he's here on screen. It assures me of a good product.
I mean, not for me, just because I don't know the actor as well. I was more connected with the the network television studio lead. I don't remember the name of the actor, but you know what I'm talking about. The
Dennis Dugan.
Yeah.
Or, Belinda Blasky.
No. You're talking about Kevin McCarthy.
Yes.
Oh, the old man.
The old man.
No, yeah, Kevin McCarthy, the one who
go to two.
Yeah, the TV producer.
Yeah, the producer.
I love any kind of movie that shows inside the control room, because I used to produce and direct live television, and I love I love seeing that. It gives me such nostalgia vibes.
Yeah, no, I've seen him in lots of stuff. Obviously we see him again in Inner Space, later on as he's shrunk to 2/3 proportion. But yeah, so that's the character I'm more picking up of. We have him in UHF, all sorts of other fun things. So yeah, I guess so for me, I don't have that connection with Patrick. You said McNee?
Yeah, Patrick McNee.
From
the Avengers, not Marvel's The Avengers, but from the Avengers.
Yeah, see different. We went to you went to Blockbuster. Maybe I went to Hollywood Video. I don't know. It was a little different.
Hollywood Video. I preferred Hollywood Video, just for the record. They showed up too late in the game. I feel bad for them.
In my hometown, there's an old Hollywood Video that obviously is now defunct, but the people who bought it didn't want to change the sign, so now it's Hollywood Liquor.
Yes, even better.
Please tell me it's like a tarp sign stretched over the video part that just says the word liquor printed on it.
They gotta lean into it, and they've got to put at least a red box inside, so that they really have the synergy there. Get drunk, rent a movie for $2. Yeah. You're good to go for the evening.
Yeah, you can still rent movies here. There's a box over there in the corner, and the rest we found more space for the booze. So
that's
there you go.
Or they could just go raid Goodwill and buy a bunch of DVDs for $1 and be like, yeah, I don't care if you return it or not. Just, whatever.
It's yours. It's
Really
yours.
funny.
Have fun.
They bought HollywoodVideo.com for $5.
No. Okay, hold on. Tristan tried to sneak in a slight against the Transformers the movie, 1986's classic, directed by Nelson Shin, produced by Sunshine and Marvel. No. Unforgivable. Score by Vince DiCola. How dare you? How dare you, good sir?
I very much tried to slip that in just to see if you'd notice.
I did not come here for Transformers the movie insults. I came here to beat up on the Howling, directed by Joe Dante. Thank you very much.
All or one, John. Get out of here.
For those of you at home, Darren is holding up his personal copy that is within arm's reach.
I got a poster for it from the Blu-ray, right there. I'm pointing at it right there behind me. I know this is not a visual medium, but I assure you that's on camera. How dare you? Have you no decency, sir? Have you no decency? Unbelievable.
So,
okay.
Coming back to the film.
Yeah.
I thought the performances I thought the performances were pretty good. I felt like the premise was wasted, the plot was weird, the pacing was odd, and the ending was predictable. And I found out, I read this, apparently Dee Wallace, when she turned into a werewolf at the end, it was her idea to make her look like an effeminate Wookiee.
I was gonna say, why is she a
Right.
pretty werewolf? Why of all the werewolves is she the pretty one?
I'm glad, Tristan, you said specifically Wookiee, because that's what I thought too. I was like, is that Chewbacca's mom now or something?
It looks like Chewbacca's mom.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. She
looks
said,
like Mala.
She went to Joe
That's his
Dante
wife.
and said, I don't want to look like an ugly werewolf. I want to look like a pretty werewolf. And Joe Dante said,
why
okay.
not? Why not?
Why on earth would you say okay? Just say no. You're going to look like a werewolf.
I mean, I could kind of see the angle of, because she's got the tear, and it's like she doesn't want to be a werewolf. Like she wants to be put out of her misery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they are trying to make something that's right on that edge where you still are connected to it and understand.
You know what? I'll defend this choice specifically because this is how human beings are wired. I don't care whether anybody says it shouldn't be this way or blah, 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 whatever. We feel sympathy for her because she looks like a cute puppy Wookiee.
Okay.
If she looks like big, gnarly werewolf, we're just going to be like, yeah, shoot her, whatever, drop her. But she's cute.
Yeah.
And so we
know
ever wanna
she's
kill
going to
the
get
cute-
shot, but we want to not like the fact that it has to happen.
Right. Exactly. So I do defend the choice by and large.
It's the same reason why we don't eat kittens, right?
We don't.
It's funny. It's interesting you're talking, Tristan, about like the very beginning of this movie and what, is it an American werewolf in, Jack the Ripper? And then it like totally changed. And then it kind of changed at the very end. And it became like kind of like Daybreakers or I think the one where it's like talking about what if werewolves were in the real world. And it's like, we have to evolve and live in this time. And I'm like, oh, that's also way more interesting than the cabin in the woods, like scare, like, have they just been living in this commune? I don't know.
It's so true. Like this movie was all over the place. And I really dug, Terry's story and the werewolf going after her and her chopping off the arm and everything like that. Like I really liked that scene. I thought that was a really well done scene. And also where the arm went all weird and flaccid and then came back as human. I thought that was great. And then they ruined that goodwill with the immediate next scene where all of a sudden the werewolf is just like the quietest werewolf ever and like hiding in the room that she ran to. And the werewolf had to have been in that room already. Or another werewolf was there and then killed her and then afterwards moved her body to the side and then hid underneath a blanket waiting for Dee Wallace. There was just so much that just didn't make sense.
It's the advantage of being in a commune is everybody works together. And so you're able to do all of these sorts of things. And, I, for one, I think that's a very, great endorsement of community right there. Of obviously the werewolves can work together to move quickly. So
well, there you go. Yeah. Very good.
But I got to ask before we get to the rounding up part, one last question. Because it's on my mind during this whole conversation, and I put the question to both of you. Werewolf or vampire, which would you rather be? Darren, go.
Oh, geez.
And when I say werewolf, I mean werewolf within the context of this, not that Lon Chaney slow lap dissolve into a werewolf thing, like this whole like going through thing.
Also, I just want to interject here. What are the rules here? What are the rules of being a werewolf?
It's pretty sweet gig. You can turn into a werewolf at any time, and you regenerate. You're immortal, and pretty much unless they have silver bullets or fire, you're fine. There doesn't seem to be any sort of like desire, like drive that's going to cause you to do dumb things.
And if you say you're a werewolf at the movies, you get a free small soda. That's a plus too.
What was the deal with Bob Picardo pulling something out of his brain?
Because he wanted to give her a piece of his mind.
Yeah. Apparently that was improvised by Bob Picardo during the filming. So bravo to him. But yeah, he pulled the bullet out of his skull.
Like, okay, so John, if you asked me like in the early 2000s when I was a teen, I would have said vampire because I love Buffy and Angel. But like now I would say like, okay, well, if I could just deal with it, like, okay, so vampires can't go out into the sun.
True.
That sucks.
Yeah.
But werewolves, like, I could just lock myself in a cage once a month. You know, I could do that.
Okay,
It doesn't even seem to be
going for
once a month. It's like whenever, if you want to. There's
Right,
there's no compulsion. There's no like we have to
Yes.
change at this time. We change whenever we want to.
Yes.
Well, then werewolf definitely, because there's no limitations.
No limitations. Okay. Even though the transformation takes a really long time. Okay.
But apparently
like it's still going on, actually.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it takes a long time, but apparently it's not enough for you to get killed over because unless someone's got silver bullets or fire. I mean, yeah, I would say I'd say vampire because I don't want to go through that many clothes in the transformation sequence.
That is a very fair point. That is a very fair
Unless
point.
they're purple pants, which expand.
Yes, that's true. I personally would have to go with vampire. I just have always preferred vampires. I really, honestly, when we're going for the body horror angle here too, I hate that whole like crinkling, listen to your bones going. Like, even if I could withstand the pain, I just don't like the sound. And so I wouldn't want it coming from me. That would be a whole other, aspect of it. So I would have to go with vampire. So long as I'm not like an Edward Cullen vampire, because that would suck. Okay.
That's
no
actually
pun
the best
intended.
of both worlds.
No,
man.
it isn't.
Oh, geez.
No, it isn't. No, you want to talk about no rules.
Wait. So did you just literally ask us, are we team Edward or team Jacob, but in a roundabout way in this question?
Basically. Yes, I did.
Oh my gosh, that is exactly what just happened.
That is what I did. I didn't even, oh my God, I didn't even realize it. I'm ashamed of myself, but not really. But yes.
One question for you guys. What was with the psychology of the werewolf? Like, are they, because you had the drawings, like you had the similar rooms where they had the drawings of like their potential victims, and then they would change it from a person to like a werewolf, like, and then they have news clippings of people who they killed. Like, is that something that they like to do, or was that all Eddie and that was supposed to meant to be like that's where Eddie came from? Because I never
was
understood
all
that.
Eddie, and he's a psycho. I
Okay,
think he was a psycho.
So that was her realizing that the killer that she had realized the room of came from here, because she also did the picture where it's like this was drawn here at the
which
the
I
colony
really
is a crazy place. Who knows? Who knew?
I like that she had that picture and then found it out. I mean, it was really Rise of Skywalker vibes, but in a good way.
Thank you for that qualifier.
I was thinking more Goonies medallion, so I let it slide. So.
All right, guys. I think we're at 52 minutes. Yes. I don't want to talk about the Howling anymore.
I'm surprised we made it this far.
So I'm going to start with Darren. How many chopped off arms is this?
Well, you can only have 2 chopped off arms unless you're a spider or some other weird creature from Dune. But I'll give it a 2. I give it that because I knew what this was like going in. Like, people say, like, Darren, you gave the Burbs a 1. How could you do that? Well, the Burbs, I was struggling to find that vibe the entire time. This, I'm like, it's a 70s holdover horror flick. It hits it by the numbers. It has, pretty decent cinematography, actual, not jump scares, but like, I didn't know when the monster was going to come out. I didn't know when they were in peril. Like, and that's intriguing and, and frightening. And the special effects work is pretty decent for changing. Like, it's funny how sometimes you'll look at these old movies where there's no CGI, and it's like, I had no idea how they did that. I know it's air bladders and latex and stuff like that, but I don't physically know how they pulled off this shot or that shot. And that's interesting because it almost kind of keeps the illusion a bit for me in a time when nowadays you can just push the, oh, well, that was CGI answer button. It takes some of the mystery away. So I'll give it 2 regenerative severed arms.
All right, John, how many quarters are you putting into the porno theater?
I hate this movie. It's a 1, and it's a 1 only because of the effects. It gets a special hatred from me specifically because of what went on in that dirty movie shop. Like, it was unnecessary. It was prurient. It was, it was exploitative. I hated it. And the rest of the movie is like, it's just a dud. It's just a typical sort of 80s. Like there's nothing, it's not saying anything really special. It's not saying anything really interesting. It's not even turning over like, you go back to the original Halloween and it's sort of like this whole thing of like, it's almost like this David Lynch sort of thing of like, this is underneath the level of suburbia. This is the side of it that you don't understand. And that there's real evil out there and it's hiding in places you can see. It's not even anything like, Nightmare on Elm Street, where it's like your dreams, what it, like that's an amazing what if. Do your dreams really mean something other than your brain just vomiting every night, right? Like, is there something opening at night? Like, that's super interesting. This isn't particularly interesting. It's just there. And so it's a 1 star, and I agree. The cast did the best they could. They showed up to work, and Dante got some good performances, but yeah, it's a 1, period.
With me, when I logged it on Letterboxd today, I gave it a 2. And I think the reason why I gave it a 2 was because the movie that I watched just before this was Morbius.
Aha.
And I gave that a 1.5. But honestly, I think I'm going to change my answer and give it a 1.5 because Darren gave it a 2. John gave it a 1. I'm going to go in the middle and give it a 1.5 just because of the special effects work, the performances, and the beginning was enough to give it a 1.5. This is not a good movie. It's not a good movie. And I don't like it. And if you like it, fine, more power to you. But I just don't understand it. And I don't understand you. And we'll never be friends. But that's okay. Because I hope that you listen to this show and that you subscribe to the show and that you tell your friends about this show. Because we're going to be continuing on next week and doing some amazing things. We're going to be talking about something that I've wanted to talk about for a long time. And I know that so many of you are on pins and needles right now because you are going to the chat rooms, you're going to the message boards, GeoCities, and talking about what is Houselights going to discuss next. What director are they going to tackle next? And we are tackling the one and only Ridley Scott next. And some of you might be asking, hey, Tristan, Darren, John, are you insane? Are you crazy? Ridley Scott has done so many movies. It would take you a year to tackle them all. And I'd say, hey, back off. We've thought of that because we are doing Ridley Scott's historical epics. And we're doing it in temporal order. So we are starting not with Gladiator, not with 1492. We're starting with Exodus because that's biblical days. Motherfucker, that's what we're doing.
You might need to bleep that one, Tristan. But yes, we're starting with Exodus, and I am excited. I have never seen it. Have you guys ever seen it?
I've seen it.
No, I've never seen it.
Okay. I'm excited to see it because this is a theatrical. There's no director's cut that's officially been released or anything like that. There's no extended cut. This is just the movie as it was. And I know that it caught a raft of crap back when it was released for a lot of reasons. I'm excited to see this. I'm like, yeah. I am on board for this. I gotta see it because Ridley Scott is one of those directors where when he takes his L's, he doesn't even slow down. He's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. And he just keeps going. And
he'll straight up blame the audience. He doesn't even care. He doesn't even care.
Even when he takes a W, he's like, yeah, that's fine. Great. I'm going to make another movie. And it's like, I that's why I respect him so much is he's just like, sure, I'm just going to make a movie, whatever. This is what I do. And it's like, so I can't wait to see this just because it's been forgotten. It's lost to time.
And I actually, I have talked about this. Maybe I've talked about this, but people who know me know that I used to work for Ridley Scott. And so I do have some inside stories, which shall be fun and will come out in this sojourn through Ridley Scott's historical epics. And I'm so excited that we're doing it in temporal order.
That's going to be fun.
Of historical release, not like movie release.
It's going to give us some whiplash. Release. I mean, we're going from 2014 with Gods and Kings to Gladiator in 2000. So like a 14-year jump in filmmaking ability. That's going to be crazy.
It's going to be so much fun. And this was a suggestion, like Ridley Scott and his historical epics was a suggestion. So we listen to you guys and we appreciate you guys. And anyone who has any kind of suggestions about who we should do next, please go to thenerdparty.com/contact, select Houselights from the menu, fill out the form, and send us an email. We love to hear from you guys. It's so much fun. So until we are closing the door on the House of Dante, and please tune in and download and subscribe as we open the door to the House of Scott.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.